Hey, do you guys have a party you want to throw and you don't know where the hell to throw it? Well, let me tell you about the Bowman Twin Event Center. You might have known about the Bowman Twin because you used to watch movies there or play laser tag, but now it is an event center. You want to throw a rave? You want to throw a bar mitzvah? Do you want to hire these guys? I don't even know. I can't even. Do you want to hire these guys and throw a party with them? Because you know you do. If it's a rave, if it's a bar mitzvah, they will have anything within their concrete walls, and they'll let you throw a party there as long as they can hose it out afterwards. They wanted me to tell you that. So the Bowman Twin. Reach out to them at 918-820-2830 or email thebowmantwineventcenter.com. They're hosting us here. Huff, take us out to the show. It's time to kick some ass and take some names. Jon Bielich is swinging by the table to tell us all about stage combat. Want to know how to grip before you hit? How this guy went from Six Flags to August Osage County. We get into what it's like to be swimming around in this side of the business for 40 years here in Oklahoma. That and 2,500 stair falls, you're going to have something to say. Let's go toss some tong foos. Sitting with the Sosk, and we are totally talking about Fight Club. Produced by Streamliner. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my table. You are listening to Sitting with the Sosk, where we talk about independent film in the Oklahoma industry, from soup to nuts, page to screen, and everything in between. I got my man behind the camera. Huff, say hello, my man. And I got Sasha talking and switching the switches behind the controls, the man who is the master of it all. Say hello, Sasha. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you all for tuning in once again. What we have at this table is every aspect of the industry that I could possibly think of. I want tales from the take from everybody, from the director to the writer to the animal wrangler to the stunt coordinator. And I have a gentleman sitting at my table right now who I have had, I think, the pleasure of 3 times working with now. I'm gonna murder this because he just told me how to say it, and I'm gonna murder it. Jon Bielich. Jon Bielich.
I know.
You know his work from Twisters, from August Osage County, from Tulsa King. You name a lot of the pictures that have come through this town in the last, 5, 6, 7 years. This man's been working with him on all different levels. I just worked with him on the one, which is shooting out in Enid, where he had to supervise me beating the crap out of my wife and a little boy.
Nice job.
Who was very eager. As we
What can I do?
We came in, and that would be I think the 3rd time I've worked with Jon. So it's always great when you see someone who's doing the first of all, it's very good to see a stunt coordinator on a film set that they might not have one on this one.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, because they just assume. Now, I am someone who has been certified in stage combat. I pride myself on it. I feel like I have a good understanding of my body.
Yep.
And I love working with a fight choreographer who trusts me to do my own stunts. And I've been pretty successul in convincing people to do it along the way.
You were great, man. The times we worked together, you were great.
Yeah, but so let's start first. Wait, you're born and bred here.
Born in Ohio, moved here when I was like 5.
Right.
And somewhere along the line, I started working at an amusement park around age 14. And I worked my way up to really being groomed for a thing called operations manager. And we were in a meeting one day, and the guy says, "What do you think about our shows?" And I was like, "Not much." And
you asked.
Well, I know you asked. That's, and I said, we got a really great little magician, but it's just so small. And we had this out-of-town group of 4 people in a musical that you could tell they didn't really want to be there. They were doing it for peanuts.
Right.
And then we had the gunfighters. And I loved, personally, the gunfighters, but I didn't love the way they took up the road and how loud they were, and you couldn't really hear them. But they were cool dudes, and I loved them. And I'd also been to both Universal, Disney, and then a little park down in Dallas called Big D's
Okay.
that had stunt shows in them.
Right.
And I was like, those are so much better than gunfights.
So when you say the gunfighters, this is just a group of cats that are coming in, shooting off guns.
Colonel Colts, they had
and they're
dying
acting
orders.
like
they're like your first day.
gunfighters?
Yeah, they would say, I'm going to rob the bank, and then you're going to take the first shot, and he's going to take the second, and you'll take the third and fourth.
Got you.
Fifth. So they just had kill orders and, stop at the goal.
Yeah.
And they're all dead. And give them a big round of applause. Kill them again next
my
hour,
Lord. Right.
That
Okay.
kind of stuff. And those guys were cool cats. I loved them. It was Frontier City. It's what I thought about with Frontier City first.
Sure.
With the rides and that things. But then I saw the potential of the stunt sets
Right.
to be able to ramp things up, get people
Like at
in
Disney,
there.
at like a superhero thing or 'cause I remember
Superhero
seeing
thing, and
it.
even just people to sit down and throw some jokes in here and there and
Yep.
lower it so people, and it wasn't always so dang loud and everybody
Sure.
had to stand.
And you could even throw
babies were
clown
doing-
work in there. There was usually a clown character in these shows.
Right. I really shot for 4 people to begin with, and,
Yeah.
and sheriff and his deputy or the stupid deputy or the stupid sheriff, whichever.
Uh-huh.
2 bad guys, 2v2,
Yeah.
and just play it all out. And one guy was slapstick and one was, just good stuff. And
So
and
you said to them, "Let me do this."
they said, "You think you could do
You
this?"
think you could go? Do you think you better?
And I said, "Man, I really do." I was in college. I was in broadcasting. I was doing some things there and writing for some shows. And I just sat down one day and kind of really stole some ideas from 3 or 4 parks with a couple of my own ideas.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, can we set it up in this one area of the park?" And they said, "Yeah, let's give it a go." Long story short, there, by the end of the first year, they did a survey with the people coming into the park, and it was the best thing in the park.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And
And,
so we
was
did-
it always like a Wild West thing, or were you doing like?
Yeah, there was always Wild West because
Right.
it's a Western
Oh, it's right.
theme.
It's fun.
It got so big, they let me build a bigger set. They sent me off to Maryland, big shows there. And
wow.
so it got bigger and bigger and ended up doing Six Flags and did some consulting for Universal.
Oh my Lord.
So
So this has turned into a business for you at this point, kind of.
yeah, I mean, it faded away. I got married and she hated the travel and going off and all that kind of stuff. So we came back here and I started producing some TV shows, kids club stuff and a fishing show because I love fishing.
Sure.
And then the rebates started rolling in around 2010, 11, something like that.
Okay.
And a buddy that was in high school with me called me up and said, "Hey, we need first a set teacher
Yeah.
to come in and do some stuff. And I know you're a teacher and blah, 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 blah." And then I met a dude by the name of Jody Stelzig, who was a collegiate, a bareback bronc rider,
Okay.
stuntman. And he was doing the stunt coordinating on this one film I was working on. I just was taking care of the little 9-year-old kid.
Right.
And just talking to him, talking to other people, talking to Peyton, the guy that hired me. And Peyton was like, "I have no idea why you're not doing this because you're far more qualified than anybody we know in this state."
Right.
I was like, "But I've never done a film in my lifetime." He goes, "Yeah, but you've done stunts for like 10 years.
Yeah.
You're doing 5 shows a day, every single day of the week."
Well, you're also making a live crowd. You know,
Oh, you can't. There'll be some people in the stunt world at dog life shows, but I will
dude, if you
completely-
can make it sell in front of a live audience, you're gonna be good in front of a camera.
Right, and I believe that, and I also
Yeah.
believe it's about the timing, and you can video yourself 100 times
Yep.
and look at your stuff, so you can get your punches, your angles, your throws, your takes. You get that down. You know, when I was fortunate enough to work on Killers, they asked, "Hey, have you ever done a stair fall?" And we were just talking about this with the guys, and there's like 10 guys there, and everybody said they had done a stair fall. And I kind of was like, "Yeah,
So
sure."
wait, for the studio audience that aren't familiar, what is a stair fall? For a second, I was like, is it people like they fall down after they stare at each other?
They literally fall down the steps.
So when we see the
Bam,
people
bam, bam,
tumbling
bam.
down the stairs,
Right.
this is a specific thing.
Yeah, it's a skill that some people have. All the stunt guys will say.
Special skills, everybody.
It's another thing to put in
Falling
the
down
toolbox.
stairs.
Yeah, well, and every stunt guy will say they can do them or have done them.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like they're not
Uh-huh.
going to say I can't do it.
Sure.
But we were talking, and you get to know the guys, and you kind of know their abilities or their lack abilities in what areas or whatever. And some of them were like, "Yeah, I've done 5 or 6 of them, 7 or 8," and they're like, I do stair falls. And they came to me and they were saying, so how many of you done? And the stunt coordinator's there. And I said, my guess is 2,500, something like that. And they're like, no. I was like, no, wait a minute. 10 years in amusement park, 5 times a day, 100-day season.
Yeah.
You do the math.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've done thousands.
Yeah.
And Pope was like, Steve Pope, the coordinator, the first coordinator on that one, was like, so can you know, you want to do it?
So
like,
can
sure.
you do them, please?
Yeah. Well, he said, you know, so like you're good with this? And I, yeah. How do you want it? And he goes, how do I want it?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, head over heels. You want it on my side? You're really big and painful. If you want it skid, how do you want it? And he was like, you can do that? You know, and this guy's a big coordinator. I'm like a little fish.
Right.
He's a big dog. And we just had that whole conversation.
Now, when
He's
you're
like,
doing one of those, because I know when I've taken, like, if I'm the guy getting beaten up, sometimes I'm surprised when they put the chest plates and the stuff on you now.
yeah, Gatorbacks. Yeah,
Gatorbacks and stuff. So when, thank God, because there was one place I was getting beat up that was like, it was cobblestone and it was like October and that shit was fucking hard.
Yeah, well, my theory on that is use it as long as you can use it.
If there's a path,
if there's a way.
Don't be tough guy.
Don't be tough guy.
Because if you got, it's the repetitive motion.
It's the repetitive.
You might get through the first 3, but let me tell you, 5, 6.
Well, the third one's going to bruise you up enough that the fourth one you're starting in your brain to play games with yourself.
Yeah, and it's not as natural.
It's not natural, and you know, now you're on 12 or 13, and it really is hurting, and you're gritting before you're hitting.
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff.
You're gritting before you're hitting.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And you see it. You go back and you watch it. And
you can't know that it's coming.
Damn.
How about that detail for the actors who are doing? You know, for thinking about stage combat, that you don't know the hit is coming. So you can't even the slightest bit of something preparing yourself for it. And it's done. If the camera's as tight as Huff has got on me right now, you're going to see it.
Yeah, no. And early is so bad. I mean, early is worse than late.
Yeah, man.
Late is better.
I always love selling the hit. I always pride myself in making everybody look like Superman.
That's what I learned early on in the amusement parks is that I wasn't the greatest punch thrower, but I could sell anything.
Boy, I'll make you look like
I could, or I could make you look like a wuss. Yep. I could do it just so, you know, big guy throws, my head just looks at him like no big deal, and you know.
Yeah.
Or some little girl rolls by, gives me a little tap, and I go sailing 5, you know. You're like, dang. So you really do have the opportunity, and there are skill sets, I believe, and that's where the stunt world just gets bizarre and weird, and over the years has changed so much because back in the day, the dudes and dudettes did it all. They were tough, and they would put on their resume all expected abilities.
Right.
And there was a list of, I can do fire burns, I can do cars, I'm water safety certified, I can do the high falls, I can do this. And you had like 6 areas that every stunt dude could do. Mm-hmm. And you weren't really even a dude until you could do them all.
Yeah. But now stunts have become such a, like, you think of the superhero movies, you think of all that stuff with you got to have wire work, you got to, you know, scuba work. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, and on the flip side of it, like in Oklahoma, there's not a ton of people in the stunt world.
Yeah.
So you'll find somebody that's good at horseback riding, and then they call themselves a stunt person, and you're like, you ride horses.
Right. You're
not taking punches. You don't know fire. You don't know cars. You don't know.
You can ride a horse.
But I'm a stunt person. Or they'll say, just like I said before, oh, yeah, I can do a stair fall. And you're like, when have you ever done one? Like, name the film that you've done them on. Because most people don't just go practice that stuff.
Horse riding is another thing that most actors are like, oh, yeah.
I couldn't horse ride.
Dude, if you have never been on a horse, do not say that you can ride a friggin' horse.
No, that first little movie, I had little Bailey Madison, 9-year-old girl, and I got to be really good friends with her. Her mom and I were the same age. And I just said to her, like, I know horses pretty well. I put horses in amusement park shows.
Sure.
I'm pretty good with horses. I'd wrangled before for some TV shows and movies and things. And I was like, Bailey is really small. I mean, and they got her running with these flags, doing this pattern work that the cowgirls were doing. And I was like, I can't believe she can do it. I was like, how long has she been riding? And she's like, well, she went through a week camp. And I was like, 1 week?
Wow.
And The wrangler was okay with it. The stunt guy was okay with it. And as a set teacher, I was like, no, not a chance she's going to get to do that. And the director got really mad. And I said, hey, let me see her do this first. And if she can do this, then I'll chill on this thing. And it was just lifting the flag up and taking to a trot.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Didn't have the muscle. Couldn't do it. Anytime it was coming, she would pull back on the horse.
Right.
It was like, she can't do the most simple of things. And you want her to run in a pattern with these other girls at balls to the wall. Like, those girls.
How do you think that's going to work? So they didn't want to have a stunt girl because it's hard to find a stunt girl.
Sure. 4 foot, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
So, we'll cut around it. We'll shoot around. We'll cut around it. I was like, at some point, you're going to need her face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a semi-argument. The wrangler was a first-timer. He had never done it before. It was his first time. And there I am, just a set teacher, going, there's only one of you here.
Yeah.
As like, there's always two wranglers, and there's never just one wrangler. There's somebody that lets the horse loose and somebody that catches the horse.
Yeah.
Or multiple if there's more than one horse.
Right.
So it's like, that's not cool either. So I started working with Bailey on our horse riding in our school time.
Yeah.
To try to help her out. I went to the director and was like, dude, this is not safe. And I got to the point where I was telling him exactly the way it was going to be done, or it wasn't going to be done at all.
Right.
And that's when Peyton came back over and goes, oh, dude, you really need to be a coordinator because you're not letting anything happen unless it's safe.
Yeah.
And I legitimately, the last day, I knew she was going to fall off the horse. I knew there was no way she was going to stay on the horse. I said it over and over and over.
And she fell.
But I got trumped. Yeah, I got trumped by all of them. And fell, but I had a game plan in effect. I said, nobody's doing this without this happening. Turned up all the sand in the place. I had safety people everywhere, people in the patterns looking for stuff. And she maybe made it 25 feet before she fell off the horse.
Wow.
And it's like.
Was she okay?
No, she was okay. She was scared. And her mom came over and said, you're right. I shouldn't have let her done it.
Yeah.
I was like, it's like, but there's so much pressure on sets.
And there's pressure. I felt the pressure on the actor's side of like,
no, exactly.
You're good, right?
Dude.
And you want to be,
Right.
You don't want to be the one that's like, well, is there a safe, but, a lot of these productions that are small, independent films, there's not, if something goes wrong, we're fucked.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of actors that don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And they believe they can do things, and you're like,
and they've never done it. They've never seen a fight. They've never gone through fight training. They've never even done one.
Right. And then this, I've had 2 regrets ever really doing stunts with people that I shouldn't have let probably happen. There's Kyle Roberts was shooting a little deal. It was kind of like a previs or a tease or whatever, kind of like just a janitor kind of sort of was. And he just couldn't afford stunt doubles.
Right.
And he got a bunch of stud dudes, and they're all, good fit, sharp, nice, smart guys that are good actors. But I keep saying to him,
they're not stunt guys.
They're not stunt guys. And if something goes awry, somebody's going to end up with a cut on their head or whatever. Or bang,
and then you can't film it.
Right. And lo and behold, they had this breakaway table that I knew, and I talked them through the whole entire scene. I said, this is, you guys, you can't do this. You have to do this. You have to do this, blah, blah, blah. But in the energy of the moment,
man.
One guy gets a little too strong. The other guy throws himself a little too.
Yep.
They'd hit the table wrong. The table flips up.
Oh.
Bust the guy right above the eyeball.
Shit.
And you're
like, that's bleeding.
It swole up. It was bad. He's the lead. He's a star. He's shooting for the next 4 days.
No.
And I'm like, I want to run around going, I told you so. I told you so.
Of course. But
it's like, my bad. I shouldn't have let it happen. I shouldn't have let it happen. That's my bad.
Yeah.
And the whole, you're like, God. So that's happening. And another time it was one girl's first gig, and she had to go through a breakaway door. And it was kind of a tricky breakaway door, and I was a little nervous. One, because the guy that built the breakaway door was new to doing stuff. And the door looked pretty good, but you don't know until you go through it, right? You know what I mean?
Don't have a guy building breakaway doors who's never built a breakaway door.
Right. So
or he's
we've done
going
it
through it first.
Okay. And I do it to look like, well, and there's where the budget comes in, and we only got 3 doors. And you're like, great. So we got to get these damn things right.
Yeah.
And so, and it was upstairs, and the girl had to come out. If she went too far, she would hit a stair rail and go over the stair rail and fall down,
and
so
die.
Well,
not die, but
hopefully not. I had a big giant head down there for that. But so I had him build it so that the breakaway part was in the bottom third of the door, and her being new, it being a really hard position, it being that just the whole thing was like, and she's like, yeah, I'm good. And he's like, yeah, it's great. And I'm like, okay, they're both good with it. And it's going to be fine. And it wasn't fine the first time she hit it and it didn't break. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to make her feel good about it because she's got to go do it again.
Yeah. You don't want to be self-conscious about it. You want to just go for it. All the things, sure.
And bang it up even worse. And like, no, it's the door, whatever you got to get. And you just don't know how to like. And years later, that person's still mad at you about it. It's like,
did she ever go through? Did she make it through?
Yeah, she made it through. Third time she went through like a champ. And
nice.
First 2 times
she broke her damn arm. No, sorry.
No, she did. She hit high the first 2 times, and you didn't want to say. I mean, I was like, you really got to hit low. You got to go low, go low, go low, go low.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how I would do it. But how I would do it is going to be different than the way you would do it.
Because you want to be authentic.
Right,
you want to be thinking
right.
about on so many different levels. As an actor, I know you do.
Yeah, no,
and the smallest little thing can screw something up because you're also thinking about timing. You are also thinking about you got to hit it low.
Sure.
But what if I'm like, at this point, it's not. That's not a. That doesn't make any sense.
So it was just an ugly situation. I mean, it was a situation that I could have just handled.
Yeah.
Better, just all the way around. Even
for how many years now you been doing this?
82, 83. Started in 82 or 83, something like that.
Anybody got math? Since 82? Huff, you got math?
I got no math.
Okay, well, a long time.
A long time.
You got 2 instances.
Two that people have ever got like her or I put myself in a really bad situation, and I just, I started learning early on when those first ones came in. They were all lower budgets. All of them were trying to cut the corners for the most part. Like you said, they didn't want a stunt coordinator there because the stunt coordinator gets full scale no matter what.
Yes.
Even if it's low budget, they still get their full scale. I believe there's an intelligent reason behind that. And I don't think enough producers do the right thing with that. And
there is a hope that all the actors will figure out. That's just a tussle.
Yeah, it's a tussle. But it's also like, who are you going to hire for your stunt coordinator? Do you want the guy? There's a guy in Oklahoma that's got more years than I have in it. And I think about him all the time. And I think, how is Kent Shelton not the first call on almost everybody's list? He goes to North Carolina, gets the acting degree, certified in stage combat.
Yeah.
He's owned his own business, traveling the world, doing jousting and Buffalo Bill Cody and da-da-da-da-da. He is an expert. He's an expert.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pay a certain dollar amount because SAG says you have to.
Yeah.
So why not get the best person?
The best here?
The best here.
You know Reride?
Yeah. I know
he's about to go do some jousting down in Florida.
I heard about that. I heard about that. And it's really weird. And again, when I was coming in, I was doing wrangling, I was doing set teaching, I was doing armor stuff, and I did the stunt coordinating. And then I had friends start to come in doing things like a Reride or a Brian Allison, those two do all the wrangling stuff. And I was like, I don't want to be competition with them. It's what they do. It's what they love.
Sure.
I'm going to narrow mine down to just staying in my lane and concentrating on that.
And getting the best, right?
Getting in the best.
I'd rather have the best person next to me.
Exactly. And it's a struggle because you trust your friends and you trust the people you know, but at the same exact time, and this is what I love about Ken Shelton and I's relationship. We met a long time ago at Six Flags up in Chicago, and I was providing the horses for that Wild West show up there, and he was the only dude that could really ride. Yeah. That guy could ride, and we kind of made a friendship there. And years later, he moved to Oklahoma, which is really weird. Then we met up with each other, and I know exactly what Kent does. he is a really good choreographer. He knows the Western stuff, and he knows all the swords and the blades and that kind of stuff. He's way better at the swords and the blades and all that kind of stuff. So we talked early on and said, I hate being competition. And we call ourselves frenemies, at times because we're really close friends, but we're competition. They were always calling Kent and I. And they would call, and I'm going to credit him with August Osage County because they called him first.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, do you do the car driving stuff? And he was like, no, that's Jon Bielich. And he goes, do you do the water stuff? He goes, no, that's Jon Bielich.
Yeah.
And,
so you guys that's so important. I feel like to work with the community.
And then you get the call from Clooney, and he's like, hey, Ken Shelton says you're the dude. And I was like, well, it just depends.
Yeah.
If you were swinging swords and riding horses, and I'm telling you to go to Kent.
Yeah.
And that's what we did
early
on when it was pretty much just he and I. I mean, there's a few others, Jody and some. But I would say we were the two like stunt guys. Kent doesn't do all the high falls in the water, but he is so
what are your
Well, I'm a jack of all trades, master of nothing. I've gone through 3 or 4 different courses for certification for driving,
right?
Through Siemens and through Grady Bishop and through their stunt school, so you learn how to do the e-brakes and all that kind of fun stuff.
So you're flipping cars.
I haven't done the flipping of the cars. I would call Corey Eubanks for that kind of stuff, and
so you're just
do that myself.
You're doing driving in the streets,
spinning around, driving backwards, 360s, 180s,
got you.
Things of that nature,
like a chase.
Yeah,
Fast and Furious.
Chase things like that, and really, I have to have practice before I do that. So if people call me up about that, I was like, what kind of time am I going to have to get familiar in the seat
prepared.
again? Because you kind of do lose that if you're not doing it every single day.
Sure.
So done that. I've got all the water scuba certifications and all that kind of stuff. I've worked with a guy that's like one of the best fire guys on the face of the planet, a guy named Mark Chadwick. And I started working with that.
And the fire guys, there's got to be, you're setting somebody on fire. You got fireballs, explosions.
All that kind of stuff.
That's the dude.
Right. And Mark Chadwick's the guy that I kind of went through all my training with there. But I did. I went and I trained with all these people, and I got proficient to a certain degree at all those expected abilities.
Yeah.
And that's early on what I had to offer here in Oklahoma. I had done
an
stuff.
Understanding of all these
right.
things.
And at the same time, I think the people early on were better producers because there was only 1 or 2 of them, and they were really good.
Right.
And they asked all the questions, and they did all the research, and they would call people, and they wouldn't just look at an IMDb and go, oh, yeah, that guy listed that he's done this 12 movies, when he could have just fabricated 9 of those.
Yes.
So they called and they checked up on me, and it was great that they did that. And, it's like intelligent. That's the producers I want to work for.
Yeah.
That's the producers, the actors definitely want to work for, or even the crew for that matter. It's, so the producers and the Nathan Gardakis of the world, do their due diligence. They care. They understand it.
Yeah.
They know that in the stunt realm, it's not about the bravado that the guy rolls in with. It's the safety that they're concerned with. Man. And, I'm as chill most of the time. People don't know.
No, but you want the guy who's calming the storm. Like when I came in with Janitor, we're figuring out. I'm trying to figure out a slow motion in reverse punch of myself.
Yeah.
When do you, but you gave me the time to do that. Right. I saw you work, we're doing bow stick. You got a guy who's doing major martial arts, and you're
talking him down. Yeah. Kevin Chambers was a stud when it came to the martial arts, but he was.
Shout out to Kevin Chambers out there.
Chambers
we see what you're doing out there, brother. You keep hustling.
He's a stud. And he was doing things so fast that in real life, it's really, really impressive. But in film, it would just get lost.
Dude, that son of a bitch broke the bow stick on his thigh, and he didn't, and it was like he swatted a gnat.
Exactly.
That was great. It was like crack. You could hear the crack on his thigh throughout this huge, and he was like, oh.
Yeah, didn't whatever. Can we glue that back together?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went on with it, but, Took some coordination direction. I used all his choreography because it was phenomenal.
Oh boy.
You know, I don't take credit for any of that kind of stuff. That was his stuff. I
Yeah.
don't have that ego there.
But that's again,
But we worked
you're
together.
using the raw materials,
Right,
and as
right,
an
right.
actor or as an artist, I want to bring stuff to the table that surprises you, and I want all
For
these
sure.
ingredients to be used.
Right. No, exactly. You know, Riker Six Killer rolls in, and I know that Riker is a really sharp guy. I've watched him on set several times, and he's looking at everything. He's looking at lights. He's looking at cameras. He's looking at aperture settings.
Yeah.
He's like everything. And I think, you know, I need to make it a little more martial arts. What I know he's never done Tong Fuzz, but let's try Tong Fuzz.
Yeah.
And let's just have him, bam. I'm telling you, that opening sequence on Just the Janitor, it doesn't get any better than what those two dudes right off the top are doing.
Tight. Yeah.
And that's them. I mean, it's, you know, a little suggestion, them doing the thing.
Yeah.
Everything's safe. Nobody gets hurt. It looks great.
No, it was dope.
You know, the whole entire deal. That's it. It's safety is key, obviously. But then I like to get to know the people just a little bit and what their characters are about. And I can read the script and have my idea, but I don't like to roll into the set with much of an idea. I like to sit down for just a little while or just watch them act for a day and see what they're doing.
Yeah, man. The way you collaborated on all the sets that I've been with, it's really nice because you're letting everybody present ideas.
Yeah, I love
which also gives you a chance to see what am I working with.
No, it's great. That one that we did with Kyle, there were 3 different kind of guys that had to be the fighter guys, and one was a cop. And in my mind, I had a cop in my mind and everything. And I came to him and I said, tell me what you see. And he's like, yeah, you know, like an Irish guy, like the really guy. And I was like a pugilist, like a pugilist.
Yeah,
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. And I said, oh, great. We'll have you do the whole pugilist thing. And he was in it.
Yeah.
And then Adam Hampton was in it. And
Adam what was going to come to the table?
Adam's kind of like the bad guy in it. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, he don't care about anything. He's just dirty.
Yeah.
He just wants to win. You know, and so I said, so how do you see your character? You know, what are you seeing? He goes, if it's dirty and cheap, that's probably what I'm doing. And I'm like, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love it. So you're going to throw a punch. You're going to go for the knees. You're going to.
But that's a style then that you guys are agreeing to bring to it, like a parentheses around all the moves.
Right.
You know, or a choice about moves.
Right. The other guy had to have some flash to him. And I said, but you're the good guy, so let's not close fist it. And he goes, what do you mean not close fist it? And I said, well, there's a guy named, you know, Bass Ratton. Hits people open hand and blah, 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 and he KOs him and all this. And it was really, and I was like, yeah. So I like the idea of not having the close fist.
Oh, that's a beautiful
It's just a weird. So
you
get 3 different styles. It helps their characters, not my character, their characters. It all works
out. But that's a great little detail.
And it was just I sit there going, you guys are so awesome.
Yeah.
Because they were able to pull off that they knew, and I was able to slide something in there that complemented. And it always looks so much better that way.
Yeah.
It just always does. So listen to the people. Know that you're there for the safety of the cast and the crew first and foremost.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously you got to worry about budget and all that kind of stuff. But don't settle for anything that's going to compromise the safety or what they're trying to accomplish. And that's really just my 3 things. Safety, number 1, you know. Safety.
But you're truly like this cat who comes in on the set and like everybody then stops and turns to you.
They think you have all the answers sometimes and you don't have any
answers.
Yeah,
no, but it's like suddenly you are the key and to this all going right. You know, and I know that there's been time. I remember when I was doing, I'm forgetting the show. It was Time After Time it was called. And I was doing there was a whole fight, and I was doing a scene with a buddy of mine, and I was like, "Come on, man, let's do the fight." And he was like, "I don't know." I'm like, "You're better shape than I am. Come on." So we convinced him to do it, and I remember the fight guy, you know, the fight choreographer, was a little bit like, and there was this sense around the set, like, "Oh fuck, here we go, 2 actors," and then we hit it in one. And it was like he had to brain me with a big wrench. It was like maybe 5 hits. It was like tussle, boom, 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 and then he brains me with a wrench. And we got it in like one. And suddenly the whole demeanor of the set changed. Like, oh, wait, we just saved.
Yeah.
Because when you can do it, when you do find the actor, it saves you an hour, 2 hours.
Oh, without a doubt.
Easily on every shot.
Yeah.
Because you're subbing person in, you got to change the lighting, you got to change the thing. We got to make sure it looks like that. But it's just so much more to add.
Yeah, it's hard. I love the idea of. No, I think that's probably the hardest thing. I mean, one of the hardest things is stunt coordinating is like, do you really want Dennis Quaid doing that, or do you want Kevin Reed out of Louisiana, who's one of the best doubles of all time, that can do the fight? Because if Quaid hurts himself, that's a big problem.
Does Dennis want to do the fight?
Dennis definitely wants to do the
so
fight.
Where did that one end up?
That
a little bit of both?
No,
not
at all. That ended up with Dennis Quaid getting exactly what Dennis Quaid wanted.
Yeah,
but he almost really hurt himself. And I'm not out in Dennis Quaid, but
no.
He didn't do the choreography the way it had been worked out 2 or 3 times. And then we did say, hey, we got a double for you. And he's like, no. Yeah. So that guy was flown here for 3 days and didn't do 1 ounce of work. And you're like, he might have looked more like Reagan than Quaid looked like Reagan. But he was definitely, the guy was a world-class fighter, double, just right there. And you're like, give me at least just like one take with the
just let me do my job a little.
Yeah. So that one's not really necessarily great. I'm not arguing with Dennis Quaid, but
yes, of course,
I'm losing that every time.
Yeah.
But I know it would have looked really good with Kevin Reed. You know what I mean? I know it would have been. Kevin Reed would have made me look good,
right?
And that's kind of in the back of my mind too. I hire the guys. And I got buddies that need work, but I'm hiring the best guy that I can get for the skill.
Yeah, of course.
The best guy, and make some people upset that you do it that way. You need to, but I'll also say in Oklahoma, I've hired everybody.
I mean, I always, as the actor wanting to do that, want to make you really psyched that you allowed me to do it.
Yeah.
That's one of the goals that I want to have.
Right. Well, you saw how fast I turned over the keys to you and janitor, because you see it instantaneously.
Yeah, we had it that you allowed me to do the different move because we did a pop back, or we just did a knee drop, and then you allowed me to do the pop back. I'm like, let me do it. Let me do a mat thing, and that's just cops and robbers having like,
and your character, and
yeah.
I'm just there to make it look good. So I see from your character's point of view what you think. Now, how can I make that pretty? How can I make that? And usually it's to sell, but no, it's you can see it most of the time.
Yeah.
Or you just like, I really, we need to, there's trying to think of what the Bella Thorne film was, but they were really concerned about Bella Thorne doing some stuff. And I was concerned about this guy that was playing a dad that, I don't know, I just didn't get the right vibe. He didn't look like whatever. I would talk to him and I would say things and then he would repeat it back. But when he was repeating it back, and just in his inflection, it sounded like a question mark every time.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like a period or an exclamation point. And so I really did. I go to the director and I was like, I don't think this needs to happen, but I think I can make this happen with Bella. And he was like, well, I doubt you're going to get Bella to do what you think's going to,
Yeah.
And we're definitely going with this guy because we don't want to double him. We need to hurry through this stuff. And I was like, okay, but just know. So I even went to Jake Manley, the guy that had the fight with the dad, and say, be prepared, because I got that. I think he's going to get lost in this thing, and I think you're going to get punched.
And you can get lost. That's the thing too.
Right.
It's hard.
He did, and he got punched. But with the Bella Thorne thing, it was, I just went to Bella and I talked to her. And I said, I'm going to give you 2 options. One option is this, which the director thinks is okay. And I said, but I think this other option puts you more in control, makes you a little more of a badass, and da-da-da. And she goes, we're going with that.
Yeah.
And she crushed it. And you're just like,
yeah.
Director was, how the hell you do that? And I was like, well,
You trust your instincts.
Yeah, I trusted my instincts. She wanted to be in control, and
Yeah.
she wanted to look like a badass.
Yeah.
Because that's her character. She's in that vibe there. So
Well, we have had someone at this table who has successfully made lots of people look like a badass, including myself. It's been great to hear what a collaborative part the fight choreographer can be in this process, should be in this process. Include them from the get-go. If there is a fight, just don't assume that the actors can do it, because they might not be able to. And on the day that you do it, again, as we talked about, you bash somebody's face, you're done.
they're done.
Or you got to figure out how to write that in. And that could be just, shitting the bed. Right, gentlemen? We do not want to shit the bed with someone's bruised face.
No, we don't.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your
Pleasure,
words of
dude.
wisdom.
Pleasure.
One last thing to leave the table with.
Okay.
Something you've learned. It's called Tale from the Take. One take that you've, a single take, something that you're like, I'm going to remember that. That's a little, nugget of knowledge from one specific take that you saw. Something that was a success, or I should never do that. One take on any film. I know that's a big one.
That's a big one. One take. The very first time in Killers of the Flower Moon that I had to act with Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm doubling De Niro. DiCaprio came over there to me, and he was such a professional. He was like, this is what's going to happen. The Indian's going to be method, so he's going to have to be drug in there. And I was like, everybody wants you to succeed. Everybody wants you to whatever.
Yeah.
The big star thing, I've never really got into the big star thing, but he was there to make the film look good, to make me look good. And I think that's what I really just is like, yeah, the big stars or the whatever, but it's collaborative. Everything is collaborative.
Yeah.
And that was a moment that it just, Leonardo DiCaprio didn't have to spend that time with me. He didn't say those things and kind of babysit
that's
me,
good to
and
hear.
all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
But he did, because he was looking out
For the whole process.
for the whole entire process. And over the course of the film, he continued to the stuff over and over and over.
Oh,
again.
that's
It was
great
like-
to hear.
So, no,
Leo,
that's-
good on you, dog. Nice to hear that stuff's going on set. Collaboration is key, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you should take from this sitting at the table today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining Huff, Sasha. This has been Sitting with the Sosk with PJ Sosko. We're going to be coming at you next week with another guest at this table. Thank you for continuing to listen. We love you out there, Oklahoma. Peace.